In this video, we're going to be talking about the Straw Hat Parents, specifically the mysterious ones that we're dying to find out more about, and also some unknown ones that could potentially return to the story. This is a topic that I've always been interested in, especially when the whole Sanji thing happened. That was a pretty surprising thing because we had thought that Sanji's backstory was pretty much done. He had that great Zeph backstory, and there were some unknown elements, but it didn't feel like they mattered. But then lo and behold, you had this whole Vinsmoke thing that ends up being a big thing in Whole Cake Island. So then it was like, oh wait, okay, hold on, this could happen to everybody, and you start going down the list of the Straw Hats, and you realize you don't know anything about their parents. Nami's actual parents, we don't know who they are, we don't even know Brook's last name, we do know Zoro's last name, but we don't know who his parents are, we know who Usopp's parents are, but we don't know his last name, we don't know Frankie's parents, Robin's dad, Luffy's mom. There's a lot to break down, so let's just get into it. And let's start with the man of the hour, and that is Roronoa Zoro, who a lot of people don't think is going to be Roronoa Zoro for much longer, and that's obviously connected to the Shimotsuki thing, which we will get into in a little bit. But first off, I do want to say I do think that Zoro is going to remain a Roronoa, simply because that was how he was introduced. Like from the moment we met him, he was Roronoa Zoro, and that's his name on the bounty poster, and that's how he's introduced himself to other people, so it's clearly meaningful to him. It's a name that he at least identifies with, kind of opposite of Sanji, so to me that means he's either from the Roronoa family, or like maybe he was an orphan or something and whoever raised him was from the Roronoa family. I guess you could spin it in a way where he was an orphan and he didn't know his full name and his family, and then somebody just told him that he's Roronoa Zoro and he just kind of stuck with it. But to me that would really diminish his name, and honestly I think Roronoa Zoro is one of the most iconic names in the series, and I really feel like he's gonna keep that name, and it would be kind of weird if all of a sudden he's now Shimotsuki Zoro. Now that doesn't mean he doesn't have any connection to the Shimotsuki clan, because as we're finding out in Wano, he clearly does. And I've broken this down many times in other videos, but we'll quickly break it down once again. In a recent SBS, Oda revealed that Shimotsuki Kozaburo, the legendary swordsmith that left Wano 50 plus years ago, actually founded the Shimotsuki village in the East Blue, the village that Zoro is from. On top of that, turns out Kozaburo is the father of Koshiro and the grandfather of Kuena. So that was a pretty big deal. We've always thought that Zoro had some sort of connection to Wano, so that pretty much confirmed that we are gonna get some sort of reveal with the Shimotsuki clan's connection to Zoro. There's also been a lot of story emphasis with Zoro and other Shimotsuki clan members like Yasuie and also Ryuma, who by the way he looks pretty identical to. Even on top of that, there's been little hints that Oda has dropped, like Shimotsuki is the old Japanese word for November, and Zoro is born in November. Also in the previous SBS, Oda revealed that Zoro's favorite season is autumn, and if given the choice, he would choose to live on an autumn island, and in Wano, the region that has an autumn season is Hakamai, and who's the former daimyo of Hakamai? Yasuie. So this Zoro and Shimotsuki thing is all but confirmed. We just need to find out like how connected he is to that clan. Like just the information alone in the SBS would be really interesting to see Zoro find out, like Kuena being the granddaughter of like Shimotsuki Kozaburo, this legendary swordsmith, and if Zoro has some sort of connection to the Shimotsuki clan, the Straw Hats and the other samurai learning that would be a funny scene. And although I personally think that Zoro is gonna remain Roronoa Zoro, that doesn't mean that his family isn't somehow connected to the Shimotsuki clan. Like it's possible that Yasuie is like his third uncle from his mom's side or something like that. In my Zoro's Next Sword video, I mentioned this idea of if Zoro was connected to the Shimotsuki clan, added on with the fact that he had such a close connection to Yasuie, maybe he inherits the sword that Yasuie used. Yasuie was a former daimyo, so I'm sure he had a pretty good sword. So that's one way you could tie it all together. I don't think he's gonna get Shusui back because it is already a black blade and he won't be able to upgrade it himself. I do love Shusui, it's one of my favorite swords of Zoro's, but at this point it's kind of swapped out. So Zoro's family being connected to the Shimotsuki clan could have some interesting story elements and could be very impactful, but at the same time I also really like the idea that Zoro's family was just a regular family in the Shimotsuki village. Like you gotta remember, just because it was the Shimotsuki village doesn't mean everybody there is a Shimotsuki. Kozaburo only left Wano like 50 plus years ago. It wasn't like he founded that village for generations upon generations. He's actually still alive. So unless that man went at it with everybody in that village, there's gonna be people that aren't Shimotsuki. So honestly, I'm far more interested in the Roronoa bloodline, which I think is Zoro's actual bloodline, rather than Zoro being potentially potentially connected to the Shimotsukis. I'm personally really interested in how Zorro was raised. What was his dad like? What was his mom like? Zorro is a person with very strong ideals and a very unique personality. He understands leadership really well, and when to step in and take charge is part of the reason him and Luffy work so well together. So how did he get those ideals? Was it from his dad or his mom and how he was raised? We also know that he got inspired to become the world's greatest swordsman by Kuena, but why did he go to the dojo in the first place? Was it something that happened with his family or something just random? There's a lot of questions there that were never answered in terms of Zoro's character and how he developed to be who he is now. If you think about it, he has one of the shortest backstories out of all of the Straw Hats. It was just like a one episode, one chapter thing. So I do hope as we find out more about this Shimotsuki stuff, we do get more backstory of Zorro and his family. It's not gonna be a huge thing like Sanji's backstory, and I'm not really expecting it because Oda hasn't really hinted at Zoro's parents too much, but I do think we will get some information, and if it doesn't happen, I honestly will be pretty disappointed. But we'll have to wait and see. I think we will get it soon. Next, I want to talk about a Straw Hat whose parents are incredibly interesting to me, and that is actually Frankie, aka Cutty Flam. Now Frankie, as we know him, his father figure was clearly Tom. Tom was the person that raised him and taught him how to be a shipwright, and it's clear a lot of Frankie's personality is inspired from Tom and his love of craftsmanship and being a shipwright and the dawn of a shipwright. And I guess you could say Kokoro was his mother figure, but she felt more like an auntie to me. But the mystery for Frankie is we don't know his actual parents, the Cutty family. So Frankie's parents were actually pirates. For now, we could just call them the Cutty Pirates. But the Cutty Pirates, they were from the South Blue where Frankie was born. And it was noted that over 30 years ago, when Frankie was just a little kid, because he's 36 right now, he and the Cutty Pirates went into the Grand Line. And then sometime after that, his parents threw him overboard and abandoned him before he was saved by Tom. So the question is, will we ever see the return of Frankie's parents, the Cutty Pirates? And honestly, I think it's actually quite possible. Like, even if it was just a really quick thing that we find Frankie's family and like they're just the lowlifes that he thought they were, there's no plot twist, but that reunion would be funny to see, and like Frankie like beat him up or something like that, or he becomes righteous, he's like, you guys are not worth my time, let's just walk away. It could be a super minor thing, like maybe there's some minor villains in a future arc and like it doesn't seem like a big deal, but then it turns to this like kind of important moment for Frankie in his development and gives us a little more information on his life when he was a little kid and how he was from the South Blue and how he got to the Grand Line. I think at the very least, them being reintroduced in a very minor fashion like that would be fitting. I also lean towards the belief that they just weren't good pirates. I think a lot of people might expect a plot twist and they were trying to save Frankie instead and weren't really trying to abandon him, but like it wasn't like Frankie was a baby and he really couldn't remember what happened. He clearly remembers them throwing him overboard. You might say they were trying to save him or something, but even that is overboard. Now, there is a pretty interesting theory on Frankie's dad being potentially in the Red Hair Pirates. Blackleg Vinsmoke, he did a video on this. It was really well done. Go check that out. But essentially the theory is that Frankie's dad is this long-haired dude with a dragon tattoo from the Red Hair Pirates. And the backing for this theory, it's not very concrete, but there are a few. First off, appearance-wise, this guy just looks like Frankie's dad. He's got the thick neck going. Like, you would not be surprised if this guy turned out to be Frankie's dad. The other thing is, in a previous cover page, you had Yasopp probably looking at Usopp's new bounty after Dressrosa and laughing, and then this guy was standing next to him smiling as well. Now personally, when I'm looking at this cover page, it doesn't look like this guy is really looking at the newspaper, so I don't think this ties in too much. And then the final thing a lot of people have noticed is that Frankie in previous color spreads have had similar dragon tattoos on his neck, just like this guy on the Red Hair Pirates. And that's pretty much all we got in terms of like things backing the theory, so it's not very concrete. It's more like a, ooh, okay, is there something there type of theory. It would set up another connection between the Straw Hats and the Red Hair Pirates. In a previous video, I talked about a Davy Bag fight between the Straw Hats and the Red Hair Pirates, and I really do want to see that, and this would be another great matchup if this guy is actually Frankie's dad. Now, I will say with this theory, a few things don't add up. Like, first off, what happened to the mom? We don't see any females on Shanks' crew. If Frankie's dad is on Shanks' crew, it probably means he's a good person. So were they actually trying to save him when they threw him overboard, which again is overboard? I actually looked back at chapter 1 to see if this guy was in Fuchsia Village with the Red Hair Pirates, and he actually wasn't there. So that would mean this guy joined after that, which kind of messes with the timeline a lot. It could still happen, but it would mean that they abandoned Frankie and then like maybe his mom died or something and his dad went solo for a while and then years and years later joined the Red Hair Pirates. This one feels like very convenient, a little bit of an asshole if it does happen. As far as I know, there's no other setups really connecting this theory. It's an interesting theory for sure, and I do hope we get some sort of introduction to Frankie's family one way or the other. But with them, I'm not so confident that we will find out more about them. Like Zorro and his family, I think we definitely have to. But Frankie's family, it's up in the air, so we'll see. But next, let's talk about Luffy, the Monkey D family, the family full of mysteries. And we'll have to start with Dragon because at the very least, we know who he is. So Dragon is Luffy's dad and also the most wanted man in the world and the leader of the Revolutionary Army. And obviously, we're all expecting a lot from his backstory when we finally get it. And I'm pretty sure he's like locked in for that final war because that's his whole goal. He's waging war against the world government. But I'm personally a lot more interested in the reunion of Dragon and Luffy and how that will go. It's funny because Luffy did not care about Dragon at all. He still doesn't care. Like, he didn't even know he had a dad. So I feel like if Luffy meets Dragon, he's just gonna be like, oh, cool, you look weird. But it will be super interesting. Like, they're not gonna really hit it off, but they're gonna have some similarities just because they're father and son. And I'm sure when their reunion happens, it's gonna lead to the flashback of everything with that family. And Dragon himself does care for Luffy. He saved Luffy at Logtown. And on top of that, he had this monologue before of saying, hey, Luffy, make sure you're questioning the world and everything that's happening. And there will be a day that we eventually meet. So that really gets me interested in like Dragon's motivations of even starting a family and having Luffy in the first place. Because in a Weaver card, we found out that Dragon started the Revolutionary Army between 19 to 24 years ago. And if you're thinking that's a very weirdly specific range, it's because Oda planned it that way. 19 years ago, Luffy was born. 24 years ago, Roger was executed. So based off that information, at the very latest, Dragon started the Revolutionary Army pretty much as soon as Luffy was born. So if we follow that timeline, it could mean like something drastic happened, maybe something to Luffy's mom. A popular theory is that she was killed or kidnapped by the Celestial Dragons. Either she was taken as a slave or a Celestial Dragon herself and they went after her. Now with that theory, a lot of people have countered by saying just having like a personal reason for Dragon to start this Revolutionary Army wouldn't feel quite as right. And I agree with that. That shouldn't be the sole reason, and it actually isn't, because Oda revealed also in that Weaver card, at some point in his life, Dragon came to this like realization of how rotten the world was and felt like he had to do something to turn it all around. So maybe Luffy's mom dying right as Luffy is born and like as he's trying to start this family, that was kind of like the trigger to really get him started. On the other hand, he could have started the Revolutionary Army well before Luffy was born, and the earliest for that was essentially right after Roger's execution. And we do know that he was at Roger's execution. Interestingly enough, he didn't really have the tattoo on his face by then. I have no clue what that tattoo could mean, so I'm not even gonna try to guess, but if you guys have a theory, let me know in the comments below. But as far as him being at Roger's execution and witnessing it, it could mean a few things. Maybe he was just trying to figure out the deeper meaning of why Roger was trying to start this new pirate age. Maybe he felt inspired by that too and knew that the world was gonna be very chaotic and now was the perfect time to start the Revolutionary Army. A theory I saw from Arthur in the Library of Ohara was that Dragon was actually a Roger pirate. And he connected a whole bunch of theories with that, saying that Dragon was like saved by Roger at God Valley, and also his mom, Garp's wife, is a Celestial Dragon. So definitely go check out the Return to Reverie if you haven't. It's a really good story overall, besides all these crazy interesting theories. But yeah, that's also possible. Maybe Garp's wife, Dragon's mother, is a Celestial Dragon, and she was the one that got killed by like Celestial Dragons and like murdered or something. And maybe that's why Garp hates the Celestial Dragons and what really prompted Dragon to want to start the Revolutionary Army. But if that were the case and he did start the Revolutionary Army before Luffy was born, it brings up the question of like, why did he start a family after he started a Revolutionary Army? That makes the question of who is Luffy's mom even more interesting. She was able to get with him after he had this huge goal of taking down the world government, and they started the family together and had Luffy. I've seen the idea that we're not gonna find out who Luffy's mom is because she's not important, but I really disagree with that. There's so many different ways you could use her as a character and make her incredibly interesting. Also in that Dragon Weaver card, it was kind of hinting like Dragon had a bad secret he was keeping, but even if his followers found out, they would still follow him. This man is full of mysteries and there's so many different theories tied to him, so let me know in the comments below what you think is the most likely option. But next, let's talk about Nico Robin, another Straw Hat that we actually had the full name to. And Robin, we know her mom. She was an archaeologist just like Robin. Unfortunately, she, along with the rest of the scholars and the people of Ohara, died during that Buster Call. She's definitely dead. I don't think she's coming back alive. Please, Oda, don't do it. It would ruin one of the best backstories in the story. But I do think she will get referenced again as Robin finds out more poneglyphs, and like she's kind of carrying on the will of like the scholars of Ohara and also her mother, like going going out and finding all these poneglyphs and learning the true history, that's what her mom like died trying to do. So I think as Robin accomplishes her dream and slowly finds out more information, she's gonna think back to her mom and maybe reveal more with what her mom was trying to do. Because her mom does know some secrets as well. Like she found something out to the point where CP9 was like, she knows something special, we can't kill her yet, but they just left her behind in Ohara because Spandine was scared of the Buster Call. So yeah, maybe in the future we'll find out more about what she did and what she found out. Now the mysterious person is Robin's dad, who we don't know the name of, and for a very long time I didn't believe he was actually dead because all we got in the manga was a really quick interaction of Robin's mom with one of the archaeologists where they said, we're gonna fulfill your husband's dreams. That was it, and sure, maybe you take that as a confirmed death, but it kind of left things up in the air for whether or not he's gonna reappear. And I wasn't the only one. People were theorizing maybe Roger was Robin's dad or Dragon was Robin's dad, or a normal theory of like he's still alive and just part of the revolutionaries now. However, just recently in May of this year in One Piece magazine 9, it was revealed that Robin's dad is indeed dead and he actually got killed by the world government. So RIP to him and all those crazy theories, but I do still think we should get more information on him. A name would be nice. He was able to read poneglyphs as well and really the first person to go out to sea to try to find poneglyphs. So really Nico Ovio was trying to carry on his will and now Robin is carrying on her will of his will. So same thing here. I think as Robin's finding out more information, maybe in that final war against the world government, she's gonna find out more about her dad. Maybe he actually found something important, or it could just be a reveal of like he was trying to but ultimately failed, and that could be another like developing moment for Robin of like understanding what kind of person her dad was, because he left before even her mom did, so she definitely doesn't remember anything about him. So yeah, I do think both of them will get mentioned again in the story later, but they won't be reappearing. They're both dead. But next, let's talk about Usopp, who has one of my most anticipated reunions of him and Usopp. Now this is interesting because I've kind of reanalyzed the relationship between them. I've always said Usopp is a deadbeat dad. He left his kid when he was young and his dying wife as well. But even despite that, Usopp has always admired his dad and was proud of his dad. Banchina as well was always proud of Usopp and how brave he was. So I will acknowledge that it's possible when they finally reunite, it's not gonna be full of resentment like I expect. But I really think that if the interaction had some resentment, it would add so much more to that interaction. I think they're gonna duke it out in that Davy Back fight, and if Usopp has some resentment and is really trying to prove himself as a brave son, it would just add so much more to that scene. And I'm not letting Usopp off the hook that easily. I know they're proud of him, everything, but like, he couldn't visit once. One thing I always bring up is like, does he even know his wife is dead? She died pretty much immediately after he left, and he has not returned ever since. You know what's even worse if you think about it? He was in the East Blue for a whole year in Fuchsia Village. Didn't even seem like the Red Hair Pirates are even doing anything important besides just chilling there. He couldn't go and visit his son during that time. Like, it was not that far, and unless it gets revealed that the Red Hair Pirates were actually doing something important in Fuchsia Village, it's a pretty bad look for Usopp for him to just be drinking there for a year while he's really close to his family. And like, while he was drinking and having a good time, Usopp was just growing up by himself as a little kid, trying to overcome the trauma of his mother dying by becoming a pathological liar. I really hope it's not just like a happy reunion when these two finally reunite. I think the factor of Usopp not knowing Banchina is actually dead, that could set it off. Like, maybe at first it's good and like Usopp's like, look at me, and then Usopp's like, oh, you're looking pretty good, son. And then it slowly starts to turn and Usopp's like, oh, how's your mother been? And he's like, oh, she's dead. I think it would be really good if it's done that way, so we'll see what Oda does with it. But the other mysterious thing about Usopp is we don't know his last name, and that's pretty weird if you think about it. We know both of his parents, but we don't know his last name. And the most popular theory surrounding this one is Usopp actually being a Mont Blanc. I think Joy Boy did a full video on this, so be sure to check that out if you're interested. But essentially the premise is we don't know Usopp's last name, and he did lie about being a descendant of Nolan and Dressrosa. Usopp's lies always become true. Nolan was known as a liar, and Usopp is a liar. There's a bunch of little things connected to it that it would kind of make sense. My only thing with this theory is like, what does it add to the story? Like, we find out, oh, Usopp's been hiding his name and he's actually a Mont Blanc, and Usopp is a Mont Blanc, and then like, what else? Feels like more of an Easter egg than anything else. Like, Usopp could talk about like, oh, Mont Blanc Nolan like actually didn't lie, and maybe like Usopp wasn't proud of his name and that's why he hid it. So it could tie together that way, but it really just doesn't feel that impactful storytelling wise to really make it this big reveal. But at the same time, this theory does have a lot of elements to it where it would make sense. I do hope that even if this theory isn't true, Oda does explain like why Usopp doesn't have a last name. That's a pretty weird situation that I feel like has to be explained. But for all that, we're just gonna have to wait to see that reunion actually happen. Now with the rest of the Straw Hats, there's still some mysterious elements that I'm interested in, but it's not as deep as these other ones that we've mentioned. Nami is interesting because we don't know her actual parents either. Bellemere found her on the island. It was the Oikot kingdom, I believe, just this kingdom ravaged by pirates. So Nami and Nojiko were abandoned, and then Bellemere-san like picked them up and then became their adopted mother. This case could be pretty straightforward. Like, we got a great backstory with Bellemere-san and Nami, one of the best backstories in the story, and it could be just like Nami's parents are dead. I don't see how like a way you could tie it all together where they show up later, unless Nami was like the princess of Oikot kingdom or something crazy like that, but that just feels like a very cliche surprise and it wouldn't really make too much sense. Brook, on the other hand, his parents probably already dead. He's 90 years old already. For Brook, I'm honestly really curious in like his time spent before becoming a pirate. He was a leader of a battle convoy for a certain kingdom. The fact that Oda never revealed that kingdom makes it mysterious enough that it could become a story element later. Like, you could argue that it wasn't important enough to get a name, but Oda names everything. This man has no shortage of names. So perhaps Oda is setting something up. I've always thought that Brook, like, and his experience and like knowledge of the times that he used to live in, that should be showcased a little more. Like when he mentioned that Goldie Roger was like a rookie and stuff, like those are really good moments. So with Brook, I'm not expecting his parents to all of a sudden show up, but maybe we visit his kingdom later on, or that kingdom somehow becomes involved in the story and Brook is able to provide some context. And then lastly, we got Sanji, who's already had his backstory pretty much fleshed out with the Germa. Honestly, I don't give a damn about any of them except for Reiju, so as long as Reiju's alright, I'm cool with it. And then finally, we got Chopper, whose dear dad was not so nice, so I don't think we'll be seeing him anytime soon. And that's absolutely fine because Chopper had one of the best backstories, if not the best, with Dr. Hiroduk. And yeah, that's all I got for the Straw Hat Parents and the mysteries that we need to see. But what about you guys? What do you think about all those mysteries of the Straw Hat Parents? Do you think any of them will become relevant again? What theories do you have on them? Let me know in the comments below. As always, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did enjoy, please hit that like button. Helps a lot with the YouTube algorithm. If you want to keep up to date with this channel, you gotta hit that subscribe button, hit the bell to get notified. The King Pirates crew is now over 8,560 members. If you want to interact with your fellow crew members, the King Pirates Discord linked in the description below. Be sure to follow me on Twitter. I'm DKing4, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.